Hello and welcome. This is Sherri Nickols, and I want to welcome you to Sherri Live, where we are committed to connecting women to the source of their love to increase confidence and empowerment. Now, today we are having a little bit of a technical snafu, so you're not going to be seeing me, but you will be seeing our esteemed guest here. And I want to start by saying that I feel very honored and privileged to be interviewing a man that I deeply respect and admire. I've had the pleasure of hearing him speak on a couple of occasions, and his wisdom is profound, and I left always feeling a changed woman. So you are in for a real treat. We have the esteemed Dr. Henry Cloud with us today. He is an acclaimed leadership expert, psychologist, and best-selling author. He draws on his extensive experience in business, leadership, consulting, and clinical psychology to impart practical and effective advice for improving leadership skills and business performance. Dr. Cloud is a New York Times best-selling author, and his over 45 books have sold over 13 million copies. His leadership book, Integrity, was dubbed by the New York Times as the best book in the bunch. His book, Boundaries for Leaders, was named by CEO Reads in the top 5 leadership books of its year. Dr. Cloud's work has been featured and reviewed by the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Boston Globe, Publishers Weekly, and Los Angeles Times, as well as many other publications. His latest book, The Power of the Other, debuted number 5 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Success Magazine named Dr. Cloud in the top 25 of 2014's most influential leaders in personal growth and development. In his leadership consulting practice, Dr. Cloud works with Fortune 500 companies and smaller private businesses as well. He has an extensive executive coaching background and experience as leadership consultant, devoting the majority of his time working with CEOs, leadership teams, and executives to improve performance, leadership skills, and culture. His experience includes 3 decades as a consultant, and as an entrepreneur, he started and grew a successful chain of treatment centers in over 40 cities across the Western United States. As a speaker, Dr. Cloud has shared the stage with many business and global leaders and experts such as Tony Blair, Jack Welch, Condoleezza Rice, Desmond Tutu, and others. Today, he is going to talk with us about his latest book, The Power of the Other. So please join me in welcoming the iconic Dr. Henry Cloud. It is so great to have you here with us today, Dr. Cloud.
It's good to be with you, Sherri, but I'd probably have to rewrite some of that, especially the iconic word.
Well, I am.
That was not something we sent you, I'm sure.
Yeah, in my mind, you are absolutely, and when you just
my staff is probably rolling their eyes when they say that.
Well, you're humble as well. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us today. And I loved your book, The Power of the Other. I read it from cover to cover. I wish that I was, you could see me because I'd show you the book. I've got it dog-eared and marked and underlined. I mean, it's just so many gems and gold in that book. It is chock full of brilliance and practical, applicable tips. So I would love to have you start by explaining the concept of the power of the other, because I think a lot of times, especially those of us who are looking to improve ourselves and look at our own leadership, we're often told that we are in charge of ourselves and that other people don't have power over us unless we let them. Right. So can you explain this?
Well, it's kind of a paradox because there's truth to that. I mean, the last thing you want is somebody else having control over your life, right?
Right.
And so we should not be given control and certain kinds of power to other people. That's absolutely right. But at the same time, it is just a fantasy to think that other people don't have power in our lives. I wouldn't say they have power over them, but they certainly have power in them. And that is a good thing. That's really kind of how we're designed. The question is, what kind of power are people going to have in our lives? Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be competency enhancing? Is it going to be performance enhancing? or is it going to be diminishing? And one of the things we know from every piece of research that's ever been done is that relationship is pretty much the key factor in high performers' performance. And I don't mean just relationship because they put teams around them and get them stuff done through people. What I mean is the relationships that they are actually connected to that help them get to the next level. So that's what the book's about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mention in the book that there are 4 places of connection, that you're always in one of those 4 places, and that figuring out where you are is really one of the most important things you can do for yourself, because only one of those places will actually help you thrive. So can you share with us what those 4 corners are and what we have to do to have the right kind of connections to fuel our personal growth and surpass our current limits?
Yeah, if you sort of drew a square, and let's just call it the map of your relational universe, okay? And we had a GPS, and we could find you in one of those 4 corners at all times, sort of like a cell phone. If you've been on a airplane, you've landed, right? First thing you do is turn on your cell phone. And what does the phone say up in the upper left-hand corner? You'll see it kind of, beeping, and it says searching. It's searching for a connection. Now, that's because there's a chip in the phone that is designed to make a connection to the network. Now, we're just like that. When a baby comes into the world, they're searching for a connection. And it's through that connection that humans download all of the competencies and abilities that we have. You take a baby and feed them and water them, but you don't connect with them, then later on we take pictures of their brains when they start to have behavior problems, and they're literal black spots up there where physical circuitry did not grow because they didn't have a connection. Now, we're sort of like that cell phone in that we got to find the right network, right? And so once we connect, there's only 4 possibilities. The first one, I always put it up in the top left-hand corner. The first one is we can be in a state of no connection. Now, that doesn't mean there's not people around you. You can be even in a marriage or a relationship or in a team or in a family. You can have cell towers around you, but there's no connection. You're not maybe being listened to. You're not being understood. Maybe the other person's detached. Maybe we're unable to trust. But whatever it is, the connection that fuels us and actually meets our needs to get us to the next level is not happening. And there we start to feel meaningless, maybe depressed, and a bunch of other symptoms. So that's no good. So let's go run and get a connection. So we run to corner 2. And corner 2 is what I call a bad connection. It doesn't mean necessarily, though it could be abusive or, overtly hurtful in some way. But the nature of a corner 2 connection is that you end up feeling bad about you. You're not good enough for them. You can't meet the expectations. You can't do anything to please them. You try your best, and somehow it's not quite good enough. But there's some way, or they compare themselves. Who knows what it is? But it is a relationship or a context of relationships where we end up feeling just not okay about ourselves. And I think everybody can identify with having been in or certain kinds of people that, it's that kind of connection. And literally just no matter how hard you do or how well you perform, it's just not good enough. Okay, so that's corner 2. Well, that feels crummy, so let's go somewhere else. So corner 3 is a place where we say, I want to feel good. These other 2 corners don't feel good. I want to feel good. And corner 3, you do feel good for a minute. Corner 3 is what I call the pseudo connection or pseudo good connection. And that's where we go to make ourselves feel good. And we connect with something or somebody that makes us feel good, but it's not real. It could even be an illicit relationship. When people have affairs, it's a corner 3 connection, right? They're doing something to make themselves feel good, but it's not complete. It's not real. It doesn't last. Just all the problems with that. Or, it could be an addiction. It could be a substance. A lot of people's main connection is with a substance. It could be with food. I heard a famous Christian speaker, woman, stand up on the stage one day, and she said to literally probably 20,000 people, she says that she had a confession to make. And the audience kind of went quiet because she's a very well-known woman. And she said she was having an affair. And it's just silence. And then she said, actually, she was having an affair with 2 men. And then she looks at the audience and she says, and their names are Ben and Jerry. The ice cream. And she talked about how, when she was feeling isolated or disconnected or feeling bad about herself, she would just, run and have a tryst with Ben and Jerry. But the problem is that doesn't last, and sometimes it can be awards and accolades and, more sales or whatever it is. It's a way of self-medicating ourselves. And so none of that works, and we bounce around. We feel bad about it and go back to corner 2, and then we'll isolate. But corner 4 is the real thing. And corner 4 is real connection. And it's the place where we can be strong, we can be weak, we can talk about the good things that are happening, and we can talk about our struggles, we can talk about our, failures. But the main thing about corner 4 is that it's real, and it's a place where you are fueled, and it's a place where you're helped, and it's a place that replenishes you, and it's a place where life gets put into you. And it's also the place where the great performance happens. So you take somebody like, Michael Phelps, who won all the gold medals, and he's been in corner 4 since he was, a teenager with his coach. His coach is always there, always there. Now, you might tell him some really hard things. He could even yell at him, but it's in love, right? And so whether it's a work team or a friendship or a family, what we want to do is build corner 4 relationships, because that's what gets our performance. And when I say, I'm not just talking about being happy, I'm talking about performance. Look, give you a simple example. They did a study, I put this in the book, where they took high-performing math students in college. These are like your brilliant, 1,600 SAT kids. And they had them working out calculus or some kind of complicated math problems on a screen. And they put them in a race. And the problems come up on the screen and they work them. And so here's what they did. They matched them for IQ and talent and background and education and SAT scores, all that, except for one thing. In the research, they went through a lot of questionnaires. The students didn't know this. What they were actually looking for was Group A had a positive relationship with their fathers around performance and achievement. Fathers were encouraging. Group B had a negative relationship with their fathers, critical or something. And then they put them at the performance task. They get them in the race. Now, here's what they did. The researchers subliminally, so that means it comes up on the screen, but you don't know you've seen it, but your brain knows you've seen it. They would flash the student's father's name on the screen while they were working these problems, and they had their brains hooked up to brain scans. And when the ones with the positive father, when that name came up, their brains and their performance spiked upward.
Huh. Wow.
The other group, when the father's name came up, and they didn't even know they had seen it, their brain shuts down and performance goes down.
Oh, wow.
It's not just, are we having a good time in corner 4? It's actually a number of factors that make us perform better. And so it is a big deal. Your immune system, how long you live, how much money you make, whether or not you reach your goals, how you feel, your moods, your problem orientation, your perseverance, all of those factors that are loaded and actually end up, a lot of them in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, are fueled by a relationship.
So Dr. Cloud, that is the exercise that you just shared with us about college students and the subliminal influencing. That leads me to the question of, if you have not been raised with understanding how to create a corner four relationship.
Everybody didn't have wonderful families of origin.
I'd like to get the statistics.
Some people came from some wacky families. Does that really happen?
I'd like to get the statistics on how many people actually did come from really great corner four families. Well, so how do you build that?
I should have said this. Because people hear that and go, "Oh, well, great! I don't have a chance. My father was really critical, or whatever." That's not the issue. The issue, because here's the great hope of the book. The book talks a lot about something called neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. That's the new word for it. But here's what we've known for a long time, even though we couldn't hook up the scans to look at the brain. That there's an old phrase that it began actually in psychoanalysis, and it came from, it's just, we know this in attachment theory, we know it in child rearing, we know developmental stuff, but here's the phrase: what was once outside becomes inside. Mm. Now we know there's actual physical circuitry and wiring for that. So let's say you had a wacko family, or a wacko father, a wacko mother, or a wacko ex, or whatever, and they put a bunch of crummy stuff in your head, right? Well, here's what we know. That's like wiring, but if you were moved into a house and the old phone wires were there, they didn't come hook those up. What the phone company does is they come and give you a new number and they put a new wire in there, and now you got a different connection. And so what neuroplasticity says is that you can get new wiring from new relationships. And that's why we see people, when they get into the right group, when they get with the right coach, they get in the right prayer circle, they get in the right support group, whatever it is, that when they get in the right one, new wiring begins to form, and actually it overpowers, when you do it enough, it overpowers the old stuff. So that's the hope.
Okay, so it's thank you for explaining that. And that is brilliant, and I think it will help a lot of people, because a lot of people think, well, this is just the way I am, this is just my circumstances, this is how it is. But what you're sharing is that you can change. You can change.
There's one other part to that. The father's name was coming up subliminally. So why don't we just shut down that file? Yeah. I'll never forget this woman called. I was doing a radio show one time, and she called and she said, "Well, I'm really depressed and blah blah blah, and it's really bad." And I said, "Well, how'd you get so depressed?" And she said, "Well, I was doing so great. I'd gone back to school and I'd gotten a bunch of therapy and I was working on my degree. And then I went back to the East Coast, and she lived on the West Coast. She said, I went back to the East Coast and I visited my mother over the holidays, and she just threw up on all my dreams and everything I was doing. I got really depressed. I dropped out of school. I came back. I stopped seeing my friends, and she just always does that. She just she's all. And I said, she always does this, and she says, yeah, she just she's just like that. I said, how old are you? And she said, 40. I said, is this the same mother that you've always had? She goes, well, of course. I said, and she's always thrown up on all your dreams and everything you cared about. She goes, yeah, she's really. I said, you know what? There's somebody crazy here, but it's not your mother. So why was she the one that you went to depend on for encouragement in this new pursuit? Mm-hmm. You know what she does.
Yeah.
See, critical people criticize. That's what they do. Dogs bark, cats meow. You want a dog to meow, it's not going to happen. But you can choose what kennel you go to every day.
Yeah.
That's the power of the other.
Yes, absolutely. I think sometimes that people feel obligated as well, especially with parents, that they're being a bad daughter or son if they don't. Because what I'm hearing you say is, be really discerning about where you go for, feedback or who you tell your dreams to. But on the other hand, if it's your parents, you know, I think there's always that. It's kind of like going to a dry well, and expecting it to have water suddenly.
Right.
You know?
So, but hang on a second. We're not talking about either or, whether or not you have a relationship and go visit your parents. You used a key word there. There's a preposition. You said who you go to for encouragement. Okay. Why don't you go see your parents for your parents, right? Because they want to see you if they're difficult, right? Mm-hmm. And go give them a gift and do whatever they want to do and this, that, and the other. And if they ask what you're doing, say, yeah, I'm going back to graduate school. And they say, well, that's a stupid idea. You'll never get a job. Yeah, no, Mom, that's probably what you think. I've got a different opinion. You know, got a lot of other people working with me in this. But by the way, how's that flower shop that you're going to? See, it's not that we don't have to. I mean, we all have to. If we didn't have any dysfunctional friends, life would be boring, right? So it's not like it's not like you got to just hang around with, you know, these wonderful nurturing. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is there are key elements of growth and performance, fueling, encouragement, a sense of control and power, you know, challenge, feedback, all the dimensions we go into in the book, where research shows that these are relational qualities that we have to have in our lives in order to lose weight, in order to reach goals, in order to drive a career forward, in order to make a marriage work, a bunch of stuff. So I'm not saying you don't have relationships that have negative aspects to them. I'm just saying if you sit down at a table and there's vegetables and there's soup and there's, you know, protein and this, that, and the other, and one of them they just put too much spice in, then eat from the other plates. But you can still be at the party. Just don't try to get encouragement from it.
Right. That's a great point, to be discerning with it. So
there's certain people I know when I talk to them, I go, well, I'm not looking for them to think anything is good here.
Yeah,
so.
Right. That's true. That's true. So the four corners, corner one being where you isolate, corner two being where you have a tendency to feel bad, corner three where you go to get a feel good type of a fix, and then corner four is where you want to be. That's where you get fueled. That's where you get encouragement. And those are the type of relationships that will help you to move forward.
And remember, what I said was this is kind of GPS for you, right? So these aren't like igloos that we live in, right? Mm-hmm. These are internal states that we can kind of go through those sort of throughout the day. You know, sometimes when I speak on this, I'll draw them up on the board and I'll say to the audience, look, I can go through all four of these corners right here within this 30-minute talk. You know, we're connecting and you guys are with me and I can feel it. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling up here like, we're not connecting. You guys aren't getting what I'm saying. And I can feel it, right? You can feel when there's a lack of a connection. So now I'm in corner one, and they go, oh, crap, I should have prepared more. This talk should be better. Now I'm in corner two in my own head, right? And I'm feeling bad. And then I'm thinking, I hope this thing gets over soon so I can go eat 14 large pizzas and feel better down in corner three. And then, you know, something happens and we get connected again and I'm in corner four. So your days are going to kind of look like this. The goal is self-awareness of asking yourself, why am I feeling bad? Mm-hmm. Feeling not good enough? I better go talk to my corner four friend. Mm-hmm. You know, so these aren't static.
Okay. I can see that, and that's really helpful. The power of other, we've just touched the surface of it here. I could talk to you forever on it, but I know that we're coming to the close of our time together here, and I want to encourage people to pick up this book. And I also know that Dr. Cloud, you have a wonderful 3-hour simulcast that you are offering. And could you share that with us? Because as I said, we just touched the tip here, and there's so much more great growth and learning and understanding from your book. So I'd love you to share that with us.
Well, if you go to drcloud.com, what we did was when we released the book, earlier this year, we did a live simulcast in Manhattan, and it's broadcast all over the world, and we filmed it obviously and kept it. And so now that 3-hour simulcast where I go through all the sections of the book, and there are assignment materials and PDFs, and you go through it in chunks, or you can watch it at once, or you can watch it with your team or your entire organization. That's available at drcloud.com, along with, a bunch of other stuff there. It's a fun place. You can download audio stuff for when you're working out or, taking walks. Just go check it out, drcloud.com.
And are all your books on there? Because I know you said you've got 45 books.
A good. I don't think we have all of them on our site, but they would all be on Amazon.
Yeah. Okay.
But go to drcloud.com, because there's so many more tools there than the books, and it's sort of like iTunes. You can download a bunch of stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to definitely check it out and get that myself. I encourage all of you listening, let that be your present to yourself. It will expand you, and his tips and practical applications will help you to really live that life that you would love to live. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Cloud, and sharing your brilliance. It's really been illuminating and eye-opening and just really fascinating. I could listen to you all day. We could do this for hours.
It's fun talking to you too.
But it's been so nice. So thank you.
And we'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Have a good holiday.
Absolutely. You too. And for those of you listening, Dr. Cloud and I would love to hear from you. What's the single greatest takeaway you got from our conversation today? And how can you put it into practice in your life today? Post your comments below. I'd love to read them. Let us know. Where are you? What corner are you at? Then head over to SherriNickolsTV.com and sign up to become a Sparkle Insider, where you're going to get instant access to the Diamond 4 C's mantras and an audio meditation connecting you with your diamond power. Stay connected to your diamond power, ladies. This is the source of your love. The light within is truly your holy grail. This infinite love is available to you right now in every moment of every day. Until our next episode, wishing you infinite love. Bye for now.